the next thing we're going to do is we want this to come up to where our seam allowance is. All right, so we have another 1/4 of an inch that we want this to overlap. Do you see that? So I'm a 1/4 of an inch here from the edge of my fold. Okay, now I'm going to fold this over this way. Okay, and then I'm going to sew the zipper, the seam allowance, to the zipper itself. And pin this here, okay? Make sure you keep your seam lined up, your fold of your seam lined up here. And you want to sew that right to I'm sewing just the seam allowance, nothing more, just the seam allowance, okay? Now, just check to make sure that you haven't pulled this off while you're pinning. At the top here, I have a 1/4 of an inch overlap that my fold was a 1/4 of an inch extension, and then this is going to be a 1/4 of an inch that I have to overlap here, okay? I want to make sure that I have it all set. I'm going to open it up, and I'm sewing just the seam allowance, the rest of the seam allowance, to the zipper tape, okay? I haven't sewed anything on the right side yet. Pull this thread back, and I'm sewing this right at the edge of my the seam allowance to the zipper tape, right where the zipper is. Okay. And again, I'm pulling in the pins out as I go. Okay, now that holds the zipper in place. And again, we're going to trim this. All right, and we can trim our other threads. And then we want to do one more row of stitching. Now this is the stitching that's going to show, that's going to look nice, okay? So what we're going to do is we need to start at the bottom where our zipper opening is, right here, and I can feel the zipper tape. The head of the end of the zipper is right here. So I'm going to start here, I'm going to go across, put my needle in, and then come up the edge, okay? I'm going to just hold this so that I don't accidentally pull this open as I'm sewing. Okay, that's just to hold that opening. Now I'm going to go again, I'm starting at the bottom where my zipper is going to end. I want to start right at the seam, so I want to make sure that I get that right at the seam. And I'm going to put my pressing foot down. I'm going to come across. Now notice I did not backstitch. Lots of times when we backstitch, we don't go on the same exact line. So I'm going to show you a little different trick to secure that end down here. Then we're going to do this as straight as we possibly can. And then I'm going to backstitch up here. I'm backstitching up there because that's going to go into my seam allowance when I put on my facing piece. Now, I told you we had to end this because we don't want the stitching coming out. What we want to do is we're going to turn it, pull the threads through and tie them together. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to pull this loop. Do you see this loop that's right here? There is a loop that comes from the other side Can you see the loop right here? I'm going to put a pin through here and pull this loop from the other side. Now I have no thread on the other side. Do you see? And what I need to do here, instead of my back stitch then, I'm going to tie this in a knot using the 2 strings, 2 threads. And then that secures the stitching. There's no wear and tear on this part of the stitching because it's held by the other 2 rows of stitching. This is really just a decorative stitching. Okay, and then I can trim that off, and this is your lap zipper. Okay, just 1 lap. And you can see that it's very securely in there. We can open it, okay, and close it. And there's your zipper.